There must be some strange boy in the house on the other Wi-Fi.
Made to make you fall. Life is a death sentence. Violence is forever. In pain.
There's like a podcast in an alternate universe where you're talking about trees.
Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Neutral Cider Hotel podcast. My name is Gabe Cook, and this week we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of having a guest to focus on, we're going to have an entire nation instead. We're going to be exploring the heritage and culture of Spanish cider, including a tasting with a classic Sidra Natural from Trabanco. We'll also squeeze in some questions from you, our dear listeners, at the end of the show. It's going to be a goodie. But first, as ever, I've been doing some musing, and my musing this week took place whilst I was hoovering the manor house, which, you know, given that it's, well, you know, it's not my manor house, but it is a manor house.
It's not my 5-star hotel. I just stayed in it for 2 weeks. That doesn't make you any less posh.
I probably should have been hoovering the hotel rather than
you should have. It's disgusting in here.
It is a bit grubby. Sorry, I'll get on it straight away. But whilst hoovering or indeed vacuum cleaning, other vacuum cleaners are available. I was getting a bit bored because it's quite a large manor house. Well, it's just plain factual. Stick with it, boys. And so I, given what an amazing time we all had on the show with Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro last week, it got me inspired to sort of like, maybe I should be listening to some new music. And I've been a bit of a musical dearth of late and sort of something new. And so I first of all went on Spotify and sort of put in music to over to into Spotify, and it came out with a playlist that included a bit of Donna Summer and some Annie Lennox and some Linkin Park. So in a slightly diverse range of musical styles. That's the one. But then I threw it open to my dear, lovely co-host Martin Guben-Sharman and Grant Hutchison and producer Scott to say, could you give some recommendations, please? And what an eclectic set of responses I got from Grant. I got The Wicker Man soundtrack. He was obviously trying to scare the bejesus out of me. Well,
did you listen to it?
I did listen to it.
My version is probably good enough, right?
Well,
I could do it again.
It was helpful.
And on that limb, there was a branch, and on that branch, there was a nest, and in that nest, there was an egg.
Oh, sorry. Was it not supposed to be harmony? We're just not very good at
harmony. Fucking hell.
Was that not very harmonic?
No, that sounded like someone had broke a harmonica, mate.
So I listened to that and got a little bit scared. But a great movie. Obviously, it's been a long time since I saw it. So that was a good start. But I needed something a little bit more up tempo. So I thought, producer Scott will, be able to have some. He'll have some little nuggets in there, and his playlist, recommended a playlist, and it came out with there's some random stuff. I had a look at it. It said about Grace Jones in there. It's like, that's a slightly sort of left field way to be getting.
No.
He's shaking his head.
No.
That was a big old no.
I mean, nothing against Grace Jones, but the playlist I gave you is called 80s Alt Party. So it's upbeat 80s music.
Hang on. I'm this was done obviously via our WhatsApp group, and I'm looking, and it says a playlist featuring Howard Jones. Wrong Jones.
Oh, very different.
My bad.
Very different. You know Howard Jones songs, right?
Amazing Howard, how sweet.
Who's Howard Jones? That's not a Howard Jones song.
Oh, I don't know Howard Jones. Who is Howard Jones?
So big in the 80s. Many songs I'm quite sure you've heard of. Let's say...
Such as?
Things Can Only Get Better. No one is to
like
blame.
But hold on.
Like D-Ream.
Like D.
What is D-Ream?
D-Ream was the Irish band. Well, not Irish. He was an Irish.
It's like
front
dream,
man.
isn't it? So like the D is first.
D:*Ream. Oh, it's like Recolon Stalk.
The colon dream. What? And the keyboardist is Brian Cox, right?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Professor, the stargazer man of all the physics in the world. You don't know? You won't know him, Scott, will you?
Nope, I don't.
Scott,
really
for the podcast world, he's got a comedy science one called Infinite Monkey Cage.
With Robin Ince, is it?
Robin Ince, yes. It's a good one.
I'll check that out.
Yeah.
So yes, Howard Jones.
Howard Jones.
Listen
As
to
you
the
can tell,
playlist.
I didn't actually listen to it. I just glanced at it and sort of.
I had a feeling.
Maybe I should have listened to it because I should have listened to it because what I decided to go was for Martin's option. There's an error, which was like in his notes, like if you're feeling a little bit brutal and want to clean your house with some angry abandon, have a go on this. Nails. Wow. What? I don't know what to say. You Will Never Be One of Us, the album is called, which kind of sets the tone. And check out the titles. Made to Make You Fall. Life is a Death Sentence. Violence is Forever. In Pain. Parasite. They Come Crawling Back. I mean, I listened to about 90 seconds and then got a bit scared again. Very scary.
Can you give us some context of what they sound like for those of us who don't know Nails?
So it's basically, he's got it wrong. It's actually Niles, and it's an acoustic quintet. Like violence is forever. It's like dragging your brain through a shredder while someone's giving you bad criticism about it as well. It's just like, oh fuck, it doesn't end. But yeah, it's a.
Why do you like that? I
feel
I'm
seen,
interested.
Grant. I feel seen.
What, by the guys whose album is called "You're Not One of Us"?
No, but the guy's like, violence is forever. Yeah, I honestly.
No, I just a genuine question.
It's a cathartic thing listening to it and being like, especially when it's so heavy, you're just like, yeah, it's fucking meaty. It's if we put it on with headphones on, and again, if you're hoovering the manor house and you're feeling just a little bit brutal, it's just nice to pepper the day with. That's what.
Grant, did you ever have like a heavy metal or hard rock phase of your life in music?
No.
No.
I am a melody man. Pop as they come.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Like in high school, it was Ben Folds 5 for me.
Nice.
Like, obsessed. And it, yeah. Although his thing was like, I wanted to make like people feel the way they feel when they listen to Rage Against the Machine, but with a piano. And there was elements of that, but essentially it was like pretty happy.
Yeah, pretty sugary.
Well, yeah.
It's pretty poppy.
Do you not wear many hats though? Do you not have like moments where you want something dark and brutal? Do you not feel a little bit brutal now and then?
Yeah, but wouldn't I'm not brutal enough to put on something called, what was it? They come back crawling back. No, I've never been brutal enough. Metal's just never. It's just never, and that's why I was asking. Like, I don't want to feel uneasy when I'm listening to things. And
I am exactly the opposite, and I want to feel affected. So.
Well, that's different though. Affected is, you can feel affected and not uneasy.
Yeah, but I had it today where I was washing up and I put on Amy Winehouse Back to Black, which, and every track on it, you're like, she's just, what a fucking voice. And the production, everything, it just is so good. But then there's some times where, again, I just feel a little bit brutal.
Yeah. No, I know, I do know what you mean. I guess it's like, when you watch TV shows, they make you feel uncomfortable as well. But I don't know, metal, I also probably the drum sound, like the drum sound I just cannot be doing with it. Like,
double kick drums. 16-piece set.
Well, and it's all top. It's all top as well. It's just like it's just like all you hear is the something smacking something, which I guess is the point because it's meant to be smacking your brain. But
That'd be hitting something with sticks.
yeah, but like
Deep cuts.
you might as well hit like a flat piece of wood. That's what it sounds like, you know.
Yeah.
Just like no, but drums.
I fail to see what's wrong with this. I mean,
Drums are round and filled with air, and that air is meant to sort of interact in a way that gives you depth and bass.
nah,
and,
but sometimes you've got to take that like air and just treat it like a lung and just puncture it and watch everything die.
Well, there we go.
Really...
And on that happy note, we'll finish hoovering. Thankfully, and whilst I've been hoovering and hurting myself, Grant, you've been actually doing some real work in like the real world and like doing some really important stuff. Tell us what's happening this week with you.
My wife and I signed a lease on a shop space.
Hooray!
Congratulations.
For
Yes.
a cider shop. Hopefully one day a bar.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know the bar bit.
Well, you know, like we'll have a couple of tables and maybe some bar stools or something, but
No alcohol.
You'll let them sit. Yeah, they can just, they can just sit in a shop.
Would you care for some provisions?
provisions, yes, it's cider and provisions.
Provisions. What kind of provisions? Are they going camping? What are they going to get?
They might go camping. What's more likely is they're going to go back to their lovely house by the beach with their fish and chips and a bottle of Alley Hill and a jar of olives, probably.
This sounds like you and what you're describing in your night.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Why else would I open a shop other than to fill it with the things that I want to go home with?
I'm not quite sure you've thought that through.
Yeah, the high on your own supply is definitely a worry for every dealer of anything ever.
Olives, tapas, in tapenade or crackers. Should we put a throw out to the listeners if what provisions might they want to see in Grant's shop?
What would you? Yeah. What would you if you're going into a shop, a cider shop? What do you want to take out with you alongside your cider?
Please, people, provide us with your perfect provisions.
Yeah, do my work for me.
Yeah. Market research.
Yeah, it's and also I should probably say it's going to be called Able, AEBLE, which is Danish for apple.
Able.
Able.
Do you have social media?
Yes, it is.
Are you in charge of the social media?
No, yeah, how could you tell? Maybe I'm not. I think Able Cider Shop are the handles, but if you search for that, then you'll find it. But if you're in basically in the East Nook of Fife in Scotland, if you're in Anstruther, come see us hopefully from around April.
The American listeners hearing like, if you're in Strunstrom and Fafstraffer and you're coming to Abel, it just looks like you've dropped a Scrabble board and go, oh fuck, there you go.
Come on, there must be an Anstruther somewhere in the USA. All of the UK names are over there, aren't they?
No.
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 Oh god.
Well, it'll be in the show notes.
No.
Yeah, we'll put
You refuse?
I'll wait until it's confirmed and then we'll put it in the show notes.
Martin, we've got some things to celebrate. What are we celebrating this week?
Yes. Well, social media wise, we cracked the 1,000 on Instagram. So just a big shout out to Cheese Cider Cheese. And then I'm just going to very unceremoniously take that away. So reverse the woo. And we give it to Copper Canyon Cider because 2 people fucking unfollowed when we hit 1,000.
Who would be unfollowing us?
Honestly, I went on there and it might be my wife and Someone else. No. I honestly couldn't figure it out, and I thought, you know what, you're just going to get very angry. So it's a congratulations from Cheese Cider Cheese. The baton was passed to Copper Canyon Cider. So well done, guys. It's all meaningless now because we just absolutely stormed it after the Biffy episode.
Yes, of course.
I want you to know that we were all like, fucking get in. So
yeah.
Thank you for providing a good moment.
Cheese, cider cheese. If you had been cider cheese cider, maybe
Yes.
you would have had stayed there or had more love, or I don't know. Maybe rethink your life choices and your Instagram handle, possibly. All right, there we go. Congratulations, and please do keep following, obviously, because we're going to get to 2,000, and we'll get a shout out when that happens. But now it's time to jump on the googly thing and let's see what's happening in the news. And now it's time for the news. This week, I'm going to kick off because we are going to the US of A because it is CiderCon, which is the world's largest cider event and due to be taking place in Chicago this year. Obviously, because of the COVID-ness, it can't, so it's gone online. And for anybody who is got an interest in cider industry, cider making, cider selling, social media, go check it out. It's definitely worthwhile. There's a huge amount of knowledge to be learnt and shared and exchanged. And USA cider people are pretty awesome. I've had the privilege and the opportunity to go the last few years, and indeed, dare I say, might be doing a little session myself called
Oh, here he is.
Oh, yeah.
the UK flavour. The UK flavour.
You're doing a virtual pub chat, Gabe, here. I'm looking at the schedule.
Oh.
That's right. On February 3rd at 10:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4:45 if you're in the UK. Talking with Meredith Collins, who she has a blog called Along Came a Cider. See what she did there.
Oh, there you go.
We'll be tasting Dunkerton's Black Fox and that man again, Mr. Oliver's at the hop, number 11. It's the Perry. So we're going to be tasting those two to talk
Perry.
about.
You're welcome, Tom.
Yeah, I know. He gets enough plugs, doesn't he?
Getting on
he
the transatlantic love.
He gets his money, doesn't he? So yeah, we'll be talking through those two and talking about tannins and phenolics and all those kind of characters that are common to those classic ciders from the west of England, because they're not so common or prevalent out. Those apples are not so prevalent out in the USA. So it's a good opportunity for anybody over there who's not tasted them. And normally, if you were to go to the event, obviously you got to for anybody who's on this side of the pond, you got to pay for airfare and hotel and all that kind of stuff. It can be, there's some cost involved, but when you're there, you don't even get to necessarily see everything that you want to see because a lot of the events happen concurrently. With this, you get to pick and choose and see them at your leisure. So there we go. Everyone, check out CiderCon. What else has been happening this week? Grant, you've seen a good opportunity for some budding young cider makers. What's that?
Thatcher Cider, being a fairly large producer over here in the UK, normally hold a careers open day at their farm in Sanford, and they're going to move it online this year, basically. So it coincides with a 2021 National Apprenticeship Week, which runs from February 8th to the 14th, and they're basically offering 4 vacancies for September. Yeah, within they have a cider and a brand academy, which is sort of runs as an apprenticeship for future work at Thatcher's. So the first event they're having is a virtual career fair on February the 18th between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. So if you go to thatchercider.co.uk, you'll see it's a young talent program, it's called. And I just thought it was interesting because a lot of people do, when we ask people to send us questions, a lot of them are, how do I get into cider making or cider industry, or what opportunities are there? And this is I think a pretty great one.
Yeah, well, obviously not applicable for the people that are asking because they're usually in their 40s on our socials. But if there's anyone in your family that is interested in alcohol, drinks, the food and drink scene as a whole, it's one of those opportunities that's really not one to miss. So anyone that you think is applicable, just give them the link. It'll be in the show notes. But just trying to get more voices in Cider, especially young voices, is a fucking noble quest, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
Bravo, good on them. Absolutely, it's a continually important thing to ensure that we've got new cider making talent coming into our industry. And for our final piece, something that could impact upon all of us potentially. Grant, again, this is one that you sort of spotted from the Guardian, and it's COVID related. What we got?
We have an article on long COVID. It got my attention because it was focusing on people in the drinks and food industry who might suffer long-term loss of taste with long COVID. And it's something that I've actually thought a lot about and has made me fairly anxious about COVID. Yeah. There are a lot of people out there who are worried that they might die from COVID, and are being extra cautious for that reason. And I've been particularly worried because of this potential loss of taste and smell, and how that might affect the career that I'm in, the job that I'm doing, and the passion that I have for food and drink. It was just, I thought it was good to see an article focused on that, because I didn't feel like me saying that, I've just said it there against someone in comparison to people who are worried about dying from it. And you sort of think, I can't really mention this because there's people who are, can. No, but you know what I mean? Like, there are people who maybe of a certain age or have certain health conditions that mean that, this is getting it. It's a very serious thing. So, I've often felt like me going, well, I might lose my taste.
No, but we said it to Simon as well, but your struggles are still your struggles, aren't they? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter in the context of, people are dying. Yes, everything bad about it is fucking horrible. Yeah. And there's a sliding scale on it. So you being in the middle of all the bad things is still in the middle of all the bad things.
Well, and I mean, this article mentions, a sommelier, a beer sommelier, Maggie Cobbler, who lost her sense of taste and smell, and is actually, you can do training to get it back. I know, it's kind of crazy.
Have you guys ever experienced that before?
No, stuff like that gives me like a panic attack thinking about it.
Yeah,
like, to Grant's words of it. So just the thought of it is fucking horrible. But there's a guy on Chef's Table who he has cancer in the mouth, and he loses his sense of taste, and he's like a 3 Michelin star chef. And I was watching it just crying. It's, oh my, it's just like a nightmare kind of thought.
Well, I did experience it. I'm pretty sure I had COVID back in March of 2020, like before it was really like known to be in the States here anyway.
Oh, the scene kid got it early.
Yeah, see, I got it first.
I did it before anyone really knew about it.
But I did. This was before they were even saying loss of smell and taste was a symptom. But that happened to me, and it was
fucking hell,
so miserable. It made me more depressed than I already was by having this, because everything tasted like nothing. It's really, I'd never experienced that before, and suddenly not being able to taste any food, any drink, anything, it all tasted like water, basically, was really depressing. You didn't even want to eat because it didn't matter. Like whatever you ate, it all tasted the same, which was nothing.
Well, it's one that links it. I know the article is about people in hospitality that have it and that, but hospitality as a sector has been hit so fucking hard. A lot, understandably so, with not wanting people to be in the pubs, but if you're not supporting the businesses financially, you're essentially just hanging them out to dry. And if you're in that industry and you've got no job security really, and your outlet for a lot of people who are into food and drink that work in it on their weekends and everything off have, what am I saying, weekends off? If they're in it, they have a Tuesday off and maybe a Sunday. So they're week off. But they, like me, I have a nice cider, I have a drink, and that's my downtime. So in this, if I couldn't have my downtime, I would fucking lose my mind. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah. No, it's
also
very
the
scary.
chef's name, Grant Achatz.
Right.
Achatz. But watch the chef's table with him because one, the drama of it's so good, but oh my god, you just your heart falls out. You're like, how? Like his whole life is just gone. That's it.
Oof. I really hope Spanish cider is more upbeat than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. Well, it's important.
Hola.
It's important to address the challenging things.
I've got a good segue from that actually.
Go on.
So the Michelin have just released this week or just announced the new stars, and in Glasgow got its first one in I think 14 years or something, maybe since like Gordon Ramsay was there, and it's a restaurant called Kale Brew, and they serve Gospel Green in there, and they serve it at the sort of start of their tasting menu. So that was an exciting thing that happened this week.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
I know. Felix posted from Felix from Fine Cider, I should say, posted it on his Instagram, like the restaurants that are serving in London that have got Michelin stars, and you look and you think if you obviously these times are crazy, but if you can go in and have like a wonderful dinner and have a bottle of Fine and Foster or something like Oliver's and have that in the same caliber as wine now, I'm just glad for cider that we're getting to that point where people can and will be able to have a fucking nice night out with a glass of cider.
Yes.
Bravo.
Soon.
On that note of positivity, after some negativity, on that positivity, that's us for the news. It's now time to jump onto our imaginary plane and head to sunnier climes. That's right, people. We're off to España. So now it's time for our first international foray here at the Neutral Cider Hotel as we explore the incredible heritage and culture of Spanish cider. Now, for anybody who has tasted any Spanish cider before or has been to the wonderful España Verde, the northern coast of Spain in Asturias or Galicia and Basque Country, you will know that there's a very sort of particular way that we have to approach the drinking of this cider, which, this is the most important part. And it involves a little bit of theatrics and involves quite probably spilling it all over the floor. So, chaps, let's have a go. Let's see how good we are. Let's see who's going to be the best. I bet it's going to be me. So, we've got the Sidra Natural from Trabanco. So, it's got it's cork. So, we've got to get that open first.
Bebemos Sidra.
And is there something special about what you have to do?
So we're going to throw it.
We are going to throw it. I mean, and that is a term whereby you shouldn't just throw it around the room. It's what's called the long pour or the escancio in Spanish, and it's the pouring of the cider from a height to liberate some of the fresh, zingy characteristics and release some of those lovely volatile characters. And the point is that you're supposed to pour it from a great height into your glass, which is down in front of you, angled at 45 degrees, and you've got to pour it with the bottle as high as you can above your head, but you're not allowed to look at the bottle. You've got to look straight ahead.
This sounds like it was invented by people who wanted to sell more. So you'd get it and they're like, no, you can't look when you pour it. Oh, you wasted half of it.
You need another bottle. Brilliant.
Marketing's everywhere. So am I going first? Am I the guinea pig?
Yeah, Gabe, you go first. You show us the.
It's the Sidre Throw Throwdown. This is what's happening. Who can do it the best?
Oh, he's moving the office chair. The office chair's getting out of the way.
Oh no, we got to do the sports commentator. And from a great height, Gabe is testing. He's got the legs moving. Got some lunges.
Warming up there. And he's got a beautiful gilded frame behind him in the manor house. Oh, there we go. Stepping back. Right.
Got the headphones on still as well. This is amazing. And they've got the extra bit of dirty old carpet on the floor.
So, queuing it up.
Here he goes.
Let's see the height. Straight down the middle.
The glass at an angle. Eyes down. Eyes down.
Eyes down.
Oh,
and we can hear the first trickles.
A tinkle of cider into our glass.
Dare I say that wasn't my best effort?
Really? Well, I mean, I couldn't see very well.
I've got some in the glass.
It sounded like there was a bit of cider made it into the glass there. So
A little bit made it into the glass. And that's what normally happens, is that you do get some in the glass. It's almost inevitable that you get a little bit on the floor. And in some of the old Siderias, you have you literally can have a drain in the corner, or in some of the really rustic places, you will still have a little bit of straw on the ground, because it will inevitably go there. Anyway, so that's me, the ciderologist. Proclaim myself to be a man of the cider world and an expert on all things, and didn't kind of nail it, but I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how you two lovely gentlemen get on with this. So I'm just going to sit back. Let's have a go. Come on, bring it on.
Martin, are you set up? Because I need to clear
I am,
a little
yes.
bit. Right, you go then.
All right. So
Steps back.
He's not doing squats or lunges.
He's steadying himself. Gabe, we were doing sort of snooker commentary as you were pouring. I don't know if you could hear.
So glass is angled, low down. Oh my god!
He's got his head chopped off. It looks like he's
I can't see it at all.
I know. You could just.
I can't see what's happening. Oh,
please don't. Pour
eyes went up there.
It definitely.
That sounds pretty glassy.
That was annoyingly good. He's gone from annoyingly succinct to annoyingly good. Ah, you fucker! Damn it!
Yeah, that was pretty.
Didn't spill a drop.
Didn't spill a drop.
Liar! Show us your cloth on the ground. No, bravo, well done.
Fucking hell! Show us your cloth.
Show us your cloth.
I've not been hit on by a Gloucester boy in a while.
been missing out. What can I say? All right, Grant, your mission is to not be the worst. Don't lose another game, Grant. Come on, we can't. You can't take it. Come on.
No, we're not throwing this episode away.
Hold on. I'm
right.
just moving.
So, yeah, good effort, Martin. That was.
Thanks, man.
That was. Yeah.
I've done it once before. I did it badly, but I put it on Instagram because it was like, you got to try it. But I was looking. Okay. So the angle, get the angle of the glass.
Arm straight
Lovely.
up. Come on. No
nice
looking.
down.
No looking. Here we go, everybody. He's doing a lot of looking. Here we go.
There's some. There is some. Oh no.
Not bad. I was very conscious that Sula's jumperoo is a bit too close and is now going to be covered in cider. But it's great because it means I can blame her.
Yeah.
Non-partisan judge over here. I would say the winner was Martin.
Yeah, Martin. Bravo.
Second place would be Grant, and sadly, the ciderologist got last place.
Scott. Let's talk about this. Okay, all right.
Well, let's proper go into it.
Let's proper go.
So with Gabe, su libro es basura.
Sí, señor.
Do you know what that is?
No.
The Spanish won't even tell you because they wouldn't have understood it. But I googled his book is rubbish in Spanish.
Sí, señor.
Yes.
So it's su libro es basura. So Gabe, what are we going for here? What are we looking for? What are the aspects of it? I've drank a few, but I would like to know kind of what we're aiming for before I commit to saying what it tastes like.
Yeah. So this is what I would call a classic example of an Asturian Sidra Natural. So northern Spanish coast Sidra Natural. So it is wild ferment. It is bone dry. It is zero sulfur. It is made with a blend of predominantly sharper, zingier apples, but with a small proportion of some bitter apples in there as well. It's completely still, and it will have some degree of what we would call a volatile acidity. There's definitely a horse needs to come in at that point. Volatile acidity is acetic acid. So we're talking about a slight vinegar character. So this is where certain kinds of bacteria, acetic acid bacteria, have got into the cider and have converted some of the alcohol into this acetic acid. You have to have.
Oh, wait! That's the last Biffy fan clocking off. Sorry, guys. Yeah, carry on.
Well, it was fun whilst it lasted, wasn't it, people? Cheers, everybody. We back down to 932 followers on Insta.
Prost.
There we
okay,
go.
Anyway. It is really interesting, though. That's the only reason I interjected, because I was like, oh, this is getting very sciencey. But no, I'm pleased that this is the technique of pouring it is to preserve and actually present it. Really, it isn't just a con, is it?
No, absolutely right. As well as there being these wonderful theatrics, which are a really important part of the kind of experience, especially kind of for the tourists. This is a big tourist region, but genuinely, when you are drinking this cider, to do the pouring from a height, it's all about hitting the glass at that angle, so that it helps to bring out a little bit of that volatility, so you can smell it, and that helps to enhance some of these real fresh kind of citrusy characters. But it's not kind of super clean. There is definitely a little bit of extra weight and character in there. That's not to say that if something is really, really sort of vinegary, that makes it better. That is not the case. It's one of those where there's that optimal place in the middle. It needs to kind of be there to have that character and that weight and that force, but too much of it and it's over domineering. It is about ensuring that there is fruitiness in there as well. There's freshness. We've got a little bit of a malolactic fermentation.
I was going to say that's definitely giving it that soft character. When you said dry, bone dry, when I drank it, I was like, that's so smooth. Like, for my expectation was like, get ready for no sugar, baby. But yeah, bang on.
So horse of knowledge on the malolactic fermentation there. The conversion, once again, by bacteria. And we've got a lot of bacterial action in here because there's no sulfur has been used. So all the wildness has been allowed to stay. And there are certain kinds of bacteria that convert the natural zingy malic acid, of which there is still plenty, converts it into this nice, soft, smooth lactic acid, which gives the perception of being sort of softer, maybe even a touch sweeter, which this cider most definitely is not. So there we go, classic Sidre Natural.
Mm. How does it differ from most of the UK ciders you drink?
Well, most ciders, certainly from the West Country, from the west of England, the apples that are utilised to make those ciders are predominated with really big, bold, earthier kind of tannins. If we think of some of our favourite cider makers that we've talked about on the show, obviously Mr. Oliver, the Ross on Wise, any of those that are based a bit further in the west, the old heritage and culture is of utilising these classic apple varieties that have been grown for centuries to make cider, and so it's all about the tannin and less about the crispness and the freshness. Also, with this Sidre Natural, there are real strong protections over how you made it. It can't be sweet, it can't be carbonated, it can't be filtered. It is a protected thing to ensure that this natural heritage is preserved.
And it should be drunk young, right? I mean, this is not something we have spoken about aging cider, and you've mentioned big tannic ciders that might have a few years in them in the bottle and develop and refine themselves. You wouldn't do that with this, right?
No, it's really interesting because it's an entirely different approach to cider. It's an entirely different cultural approach to cider making. So, in Asturias and in the Basque Country, which are our two primary cider making regions within northern Spain, with a number of the apples actually grown further west in Galicia, It's pressed in the autumn, as would be the case for any cider maker who's making that sort of vintage, that harvest kind of cider. It goes into giant chestnut barrels. It's fermented. The Sidra Natural wild ferment, and it undergoes that process. And then from January, fermentation is completed. It's undergone a little bit of that maturation, and it will start to be drawn off into these wonderful green bottles. Certainly for Asturias, this bottle shape and type is utilized by all cider makers who are making Sidra Natural. So it's like a common bottle shape, so they can recognize immediately, the consumer, that if it's that shape, that color, the green bottle, and it's called Sidra Natural, you know exactly what it's going to be. That's that kind of that protection. And the other really cool thing is that these bottles are all recyclable, because everybody is utilizing these bottles, all the cider makers. You can return them, and that goes into that sort of return chain, which is kind of a cool thing. But the point is that yes, they draw off, the cider makers draw off into these bottles sort of as and when they need, and ideally, you drink fresh. This is not one that you mature over loads of time. I suppose it's more akin to certain types of beer, which is a case of drink it fresh. This is how it's not going to get any better than it is right now.
I love this cider, right? I love Sidra, Spanish cider. But what I see, for someone who hasn't had it before and picks it up in a shop and drinks it, it's going to freak them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to turn some people off.
Yeah. I had that. Where first cider I had from Spain, a mate brought back from holiday, was like, "You like cider? I got this." I was like, "This is fucking." I literally, chilled it right down. All the label was like Spanish on paper. Like, I'm not even kidding. It was like a little shopping list on scrap paper. It looked like that. And I poured it into the glass, and it was like it had like a little glass drawn on it. But I was like, cool, okay, cool. Put it in the fridge, obviously. Chill it right down, like a nice cider. Pour it gently. Yeah, leave all the cinnamon in there. I was like, fuck, this is vinegar. What the fuck is this?
Like that, and what? But when was that though for you?
2019. Yeah.
Oh, right. So
no, it was.
No,
this was.
Fuck off.
In all seriousness, though, this was about. What was it? It would have been about 2013, 14.
Right, so you'd had real cider. It wasn't
I grew up in Cornwall. That's what I'm saying. And I was like, I like cider. So this guy was like, "Oh, mate, they've got a drinking culture out there. You'll like cider. You'll like this." But what he forgot to tell me is there is a whole heap of tradition, and this practice is built around giving you this product. So you could do this, Scott, with normal cider if you really wanted, but you wouldn't be changing it in any way. You're just wasting half the bottle. But this actually changes the liquid. The whole presentation is designed around that. And the preservation of it, the sale of it, the whole logistics of it is set up to take that juice and give it to the customer like this. So yeah, the basic thing is just how, like you said, how do you get it to people? How do you get them into it? And I think for a lot of people, they just have to go there and see it themselves, don't they? It's part of the theatre.
I think we're drinking it totally in the wrong setting as well. Like, we're drinking it on our own, without any food, without any... I've never visited the Asturias or these parts of Spain where they make the cider, but, it's you'd said, Mark, it's part of a theatre. It's part of an experience. In Spain, the way they eat food as well, it's so communal and so shared.
That's it.
And a bottle like this that we have, a 750ml bottle of this, probably wouldn't last that long, because there's maybe 10 people around the table, and or maybe more. I don't know, Gabe, you'd be able to say, but there's so many people that you pour this little portion of it, much like the way they eat with tapas. You have a small amount of it whilst you're eating, and you're picking up things to eat, and you're chatting, and then you drink, and then you're like, "Oh, I need some more," and then you pour a little bit more, and it's not meant to sit for very long in the bottle once the bottle's open.
This is it. We talk about let's say, the West Country of England having a cider culture, and that is true. There is a culture of cider making and cider drinking in Asturias and in the Basque Country.
Is that Martin's floor making an appearance?
In Asturias and in the Basque Country, cider, it's kind of like the culture. It is one of the integral cogs of everyday life. What they do, how they socialize, and how they drink. You're absolutely right. The family gets together, and cider. It's always with food. I mean, imagine you got the briskness, the freshness, and the acidity, guys. For you, you might struggle given that you're both vegan. If you were to go to a classic Sidra or Sagardor, you would be having these drinks with plates of meat and fish and eggs.
No, avocado and chestnuts only.
Also, I have to say I'm not vegan anymore.
Oh,
I know. I've moved to the coast and I now eat fish, so I'm just putting that.
So you can just have fish and chips from the Anstruther fish and chip shop, the best fish and chip shop.
Yeah,
in the world.
like a fish. I
you not
live here
sponsored
now,
by
and
them?
it's like we could. Oh shit! Let's do that.
Let's keep it back to it. Grant, you put something in your bottle then. You brought this bottle. What is that?
So it's I bought these Trabancos, and a case of 6, and with it I got this little plastic insert for the bottle that I guess sort of aerates the cider as you pour, or makes it easier to pour. Is it easier for pouring, or is it that it's giving it extra carbonation on top of the long pour?
It's called the tap-on, and what it's doing is it's allowing the air to come into the bottle as you are pouring out for it. So it's regulating the flow, so you don't get the glug, the glug. So as we all experienced, me apparently, according to producer Scott, worse than anybody else. Yeah, when you pour the bottle, you've got the ideal is that you pour it really carefully, and so just a little trickle kind of comes down. If you push with a little bit too much kind of flow, you get the glug and the push. By using the tap on, or what you can also do, I nearly did it, I should have done, on the corks, is you can actually cut a notch all the way along the cork on both sides and put that in so that it can pour the cider out and allow the air to kind of come in as well. If I was feeling particularly Ray Mears,
just be as good as me. Just pour it like a proper adult.
I do want to talk very briefly about, the cider that we've drunk is an Asturian cider, so sort of around Santander and Gijón and Oviedo, around there, just next door.
Great bank.
Great bank. The Basque Country, with sort of centered around San Sebastian, just outside of San Sebastian is a town called Astigarraga, and that's where the sort of epicenter of the Basque cider heritage is. And they have this. It's not an old culture or an event. It's called Chuch. And it developed after the war. There's a big gastronomic scene within San Sebastian, isn't it? There's more sort of Michelin-starred restaurants in San Sebastian per restaurant or per capita than anywhere else in the world. And cider, as you know, we've been talking about it being part of the sort of culture and of life. There's not a great sort of value perception associated with these drinks. These are treated as sort of cheap drinks that is part of everyday life. There's not something to treat yourself with. It just kind of is. And so the cider makers historically, and especially kind of post-war, not making a lot of money. And so when not
like the UK ones that are just rolling.
They're just rolling in the Benjamins, aren't they? It's absolutely crazy. But similar in terms of this high value perception is an important thing. And so what these guys did is that when the foodies were coming out to buy cider to go to their restaurants and things, they would want to have some food, and so the cider makers decided to put on a bit of a feast and sort of taste that new season cider, and in that sort of convivial, celebratory way. It was done. You're in the cider house itself, and so you'd go straight to the vat, and it is a vat rather than the barrel. We're talking giant chestnut barrels, thousands of liters, beautiful. And there would be the cry of "Chotch." That's TXOTX. The Basque language is a tricky one. And "Chotch" translates as toothpick. And because that's literally what you would have had, or an equivalent, a little spigot in the barrel. And when you pull that out, this arc of cider comes out, and you go up and you capture it in your glass. 2 fingers worth. That's what you're supposed to do. Get 2 fingers worth, because that's the perfect amount for it to be aerated. Martin, you've got 2 beautiful fingers worth there. Bravo.
Honestly,
well done.
the like haze, it looks like a cider version of Guinness. It's like slowly coming back.
Absolutely.
And it smells fucking amazing.
So you go up, George, you go get your 2 fingers worth, and you go back to your table, and there's the T-bone steak. There's the salted cod omelette. There's the whatever kind of comes next. So if you're a foodie, then when the world opens up, getting yourself to northern Spain for the food, and also for the cider, and just that culture, the pinchos, the tapas. Gosh, that sounds a lot of fun to me. We've been drinking the Sidra Natural, which is the heritage, the tradition in just to say again, the Basque Country has its own language. It's called Sagadoa over there, and they actually have sort of like controls over. They have like sort of like quality controls. You've got these capsules that go over the top of the bottle with different colors to denote different qualities that have been determined by independent tasters. So they are saying this is of it. So to give the consumer that level of insight and understanding over what's inside the liquid. But the Sidra Natural accounts for a decent chunk of volume, but it's not the only cider that's made. There is what's called New Expression cider within Spain, which is cider that is allowed to be, filtered and stabilized and, force carbonated, sort of, contemporary ciders as we would know them, even if they are, 100% juice and all that kind of thing. They've also got a bit of legislation which is around like a cider cocktail, which basically is more akin to some of the more commercial ciders that we would know from our supermarkets. But they've got to have more than 50% juice, which is considerably more than is necessary here in the UK, where we sit at I think a lowly 35% kind of juice. So there's different types of things that can be called cider over there. But the Sidra Natural is the beating heart of it.
Gabe, as we wrap up this conversation, I was curious, given the influence and the style and technique of the Spanish ciders, do they have an influence outside of Spain in the cider industry?
They do. Not so much in Europe, actually. I suppose because in the UK and in France, the 2 other, traditional old world cider nations, we're so historically entrenched in our own cider making culture and tradition that it's not really seen or felt sort of so much. Guess what? It's North America. USA especially is the area where it sucks in all of these different sort of cultures and techniques, utilizing the tannic apples from the UK, keeving styles from northern France. And there's a number of cider makers that love this style of cider making. I suppose from a flavor point of view, we've got some of those kind of like sour and zingy elements that reach into natty wines and into certain kind of sour beers too. And so there is a real appeal to this sort of flavor profile and the way you approach it. So there are some cider makers who are doing their interpretations of it in the US.
Yeah, in the States, Angry Orchard Walden, they've got a cider called Edu, EDU, that is inspired by the man himself, and it's basically an homage to Ryan's guide through Spanish cider, and it's a high acid, crazy volatile thing that tastes wonderful.
Oh, it's so good,
and won many awards as well. It's
nice.
It's great. That's not the only one. Tilted Shed, they do their interpretation is called Inclinado, as is the case. Tilted Shed is in Sonoma in California. There is a very strong awareness in the USA of not utilizing the term Sidra Natural because it's not a traditional Spanish cider. It is an interpretation, but people are even considered to call it like sort of Sidra style. So often they give it sort of, Spanish names effectively to try and inform that it's of that kind of style.
In the UK, it's one that the only one that I found that was like it was, and I looked on my Instagram, but the guys at Rebel Root, and their ciders are huge acid, the dessert variety apples, but the one that, what is it? Is it the outsider that's gone through mallow? It's got a very similar taste to this, where it's like high acid, softened by the mallow, and I was throwing it into the glass in the garden over the summer, and I was like, this is just like an English interpretation. It's fucking lovely.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. And they've got a 16, 17 of the outsider as well, so you can get that, you know, one of them's just that much more rounded and smooth and creamy, the 16.
I was going to say, but you'll have to buy both from Grant to know which is
have
which.
to buy both, really, to know. Oh, shit. But yeah, the Spanish Sidra is am I right saying it's the oldest, technically the oldest tradition?
Definitely.
In cider making.
It's all the evidence suggests that cider was being made with real purpose in northern Spain before anywhere else in Europe, and therefore the world. There was a geographer, and, you know, being a geographer myself, I'm in great company. His name was Strabo, a Greek.
Are you saying geographer, or are you calling yourself a geographer? What?
or a geographologist?
I'm a geographer, just one that doesn't enunciate very well. Geographer. I have a geography degree. Thank you very much.
Do you?
Geography.
Hang on, you didn't study ciderology.
Well, of course not. I made it up.
Geography.
Jesus Christ, man. Come on. What are you talking about?
Have we spoken about how it tastes? I don't know if we have.
No, we haven't.
Ugh.
So, Gabe, put your geography degree back.
Hang on, come on. Let me finish off Strabo. Good old Strabo, Greek geography. He was talking about cider 2,000 years ago. And it seems that, you know, being written in the 9th century, that there was a fully functioning cider industry, orchards, apples being grown for kind of making cider. So, and that really does, that sort of intent predates anything that was happening in Britain or France, it would seem. So, go Spain.
Cheers for bringing culture to the drink, guys.
Good work.
Thank you.
That was to the Spanish, not to us.
Right.
That sounded cheers. Got my £1 million jacket on. Cheers for bringing the culture mine. That's right, mate.
Big, massive £1 million jacket on.
Oh, dear.
But no, it's got this, like, when you first pour it, all the fruits on the front, like, it's very bright, citric. And now I've poured my final glass at the bottle. That note of that ferments there, but it's amazing having it even just in a 5-minute period change. But I'm going to go from memory, and it was proper high, juicy, like little bit pineapple-y, but that's me being pedantic.
Totally.
I mean, it's full fucking apple in a barrel. It smells like cider when someone's like, put your fucking nose in this, and you're in a cider. It's wonderful. It's so exactly what it is. And the texture, that mallow gives it this nice little creamy middle bit when you're drinking it, and then it's bright again. So it's like just 2 punches of like juicy
Those
citrus.
tropical notes on the nose is one of the main reasons I love the Sidra, Spanish Sidra, because you get this pineapple, mango lilt on the nose, and then all of a sudden you take a drink and it's totally different. That's brilliant. That's what I think is just so fantastic about this, and just it's exciting because you think you're going to take a drink of lilt, and what you get is like this high acid kind of not vinegar. I don't want to say vinegar, but it's just that's totally different from what you get in the nose, and that I think it just shows that the what you can do with cider, what you can do with fermented apples to get these aromatics, but it doesn't just taste like pineapple juice.
What's really crucial for anybody who's listening, who's going to, obviously you're all going to go out and buy some Trabanco or any of the Sidra or Sagardoa, is that this is not a drink that you are going to have by the pint. Don't come with that sort of British sort of cultural approach. It's something
Have it
that
by
you
the
are going to
750ml bottle.
Have it by the 750ml bottle and strawpedo it. No, it's
No, but have 7 servings of that bottle.
yeah, this is it. It's you have little and often. But if it's like you're going to try and down a pint of like a kettle soured beer in 15 minutes. That's not a pleasant experience, but that's not what it's intended to be or how it's intended to be drunk. So there we go, everyone. That is our lovely trip through the Spanish cider countryside. So now let's head back to the UK and the USA, of course, respectively, and open up some mail and answer some of your listener questions. And now it's time for our listener questions, where we take a crack at answering the inquisitive minds of our dear listeners. Martin, what questions are the listeners asking of us this week?
A little bit of a rapid fire here. There's a few questions I found on the phone saved by _Phil_Wells. So Phil Wells. He asked a series of questions, and I believe we could go into them in depth, but I think a few of them would be one-word answers from you guys. So, first off, cider or perry? Grant.
Cider.
Gabe.
Cider.
Me, cider. So perry, shit. Number 2, still or sparkling? Gabe.
Sparkling.
Grant.
Still.
Me, effervescent. So
Half and half.
What, on the fence?
I'm on the fence. Yeah, no, I am
Fence
the
of
fence.
effervescence.
It depends. It depends on the drink, but if I'm going to go for it,
whoa. We're only allowed one-word answers. How come you get a fucking...
I'm the host, baby. Do what I want. I get 2. Scott, for the record, I get 2 points for this answer. So,
Ding, ding.
but no, if I'm going to say it, still, that's what I would prefer. And this one's a little bit longer, so you get a sentence or two. What keeps you interested in cider, Grant?
The amount of new makers who are releasing new ciders that taste completely different from what I've tasted before.
And Gabe?
It's the people. It's the people. There's a lush community with cider, whether that be UK, Spain, USA, all around the world. And it's fun. It's fun and it's friendly. And I very much can't wait to get back to exploring that further.
For me, it's the money. And we've got...
Well, you're definitely lying, because there ain't not much money in cider, is there?
Oh, yeah.
And there's one more after this.
No,
but...
give us a real answer, Martin. Fuck off. You're not getting away with that.
Well, it's the same as yours. It's exactly the same as yours, which the comedic value goes, oh, shall I go, oh yeah, Grant is really good. The Scotsman in Scotland, not in England, is really good. Well, again, Scotland, I am so sorry. Ryan, not to you though, you fucking factory worker.
Can I say, I had to post something to Ryan today, and I took great pleasure from addressing it to the Caledonian Cider Factory. So enjoy that, Ryan.
But yeah, in honesty, it's the products and innovation. I mean, is it? Are you making essentially? Are you reinventing the wheel? A lot of these ciders might seem to some makers of like, oh well, that's just that, and like what's pet nat and this. The fact that people are pushing themselves, and that we get to drink these wonderful things. Even if we're drinking the same thing 100 times, baby, it feels so fucking good right now. So whatever everyone's doing, it's fucking lovely. The scene's great. And what got you into cider? So like, not necessarily the drink, but like why cider, not beer, I guess, is how I'll phrase this.
The laddish culture around beer and lager didn't appeal to me, and really turned me off. And cider tasted better. You know, when you're talking about just ordering pints from a bar and it's Strongbow or Foster's, and I didn't feel a connection to beer and lager as it was presented to me as this thing that lads do together, and I didn't like that, and preferred the taste of cider. And then as I got older, I realised that it was, for me, I felt the cider world was more interesting to me than the beer world. And it is that beer. I think initially it is that beer cider choice in pubs when you're first starting drinking. So,
but when you're drinking as an adult, and you were talking about on tour and everything, you were picking cider instead. What was the genesis of that decision?
Well, I guess not exploring beer and not understanding that there was a lot more to beer than what I knew and had experienced outside of £2 pints of Foster's, and thinking that beer is beer. And I guess the same way people think about cider. Cider is cider, and what I've tried is what it is, and I'm not going to look beyond that. And that's how I felt about beer, and just I never really felt the culture matched with how I wanted to experience drinking. And cider, I guess, maybe just didn't have that, didn't have anything attached to it, so you could just drink it and not be this stereotype or this person, or like have to fit into anything that you were meant to.
It sounds so opposite hearing it, because we're both from areas where cider drinking is prevalent. So like hearing someone who isn't from that go, oh, I could just be nothing. Like,
yeah,
that's exactly the antithesis of what I'm going to say in mine.
Really? Right. But that's it, though. Cider's, it's not really a thing, or wasn't a thing here, and beer certainly is. Well, I guess it is everywhere, but I don't know. I just never associated myself with the lad culture that always has been and continues to be promoted with beer, or certain beers anyway. And now I've come round to like beers bowed down to me. It's not. It's like I've discovered that there's a lot more to beer than I thought there was, and that's interesting and great. But no, initially it was just didn't feel part of the lager culture.
I was just gonna quickly sum it up. Like the way cider is to us as like an established thing is similar to like Scotland and Ireland with whiskey, where it's like. Yeah, that's the cultural drink, and obviously they're not session drinks. So cider is the closest you can get in the West Country to those. But Gabe, with yours, how did you come to cider?
If you want the slightly longer version, you can read it in chapter 1 of Ciderology, where Gabe Cook go into some quite depth. But I'll give you the abridged version now. It's, as Martin said, it's all about sense of place for me. I feel just eternally fortunate to have grown up in a beautiful little village in Gloucestershire, and loads of orchards all around, old orchards and modern orchards, cider small, cider big, made nearby. Had sort of first tasters, sort of teen from some of the not some of the not of the little producers, but some of the bigger ones, and just sort of enjoyed the taste. But it was once. It was the first time I went to the Ross and Wise Cider and Perry Company. Literally, I wanted to go and visit a small cider maker with my brother. This would be.
How old were you when you did that?
That was 2000. I was like 20. Right. And as I said, geography graduate. For me, it's all about like landscape and history and social culture and wildlife. Those are all the things that kind of like interest me, especially when they're based around the place and the landscape that I'm from. And I sort of came to realize that cider was a kind of like a bit of a soundtrack and brought together all the things that I kind of was into and enjoyed. And it was an alcoholic beverage that tasted nice, and it was convivial as well. So it just I just fell down the rabbit hole. And when I kind of like clicked and realized that on my granny's old farm there was, and there still is this singular giant bloody perry pear tree, and
on that tree there was
some perry and a taste of poo, and Actually, no, that was the best. That was the best drink I've ever made. Like basically the very first one. That perry from that thorn tree was electric, and it just.
I was going to say, you've said electric. Did it have the same kind of characteristics that the Ross did? Nothing to do with like the fermenter or anything, but like you said, breakfast juice. Did you feel that when you had your thorn perry of like, when you had your thorn perry, fucking hell. Yeah. When you had your thorn perry, how was it for you?
It was the zest and the bright and the life and a little bit of grippiness in there too, but it was just. I literally had never tasted anything like it. I only had a few perries at that point. And I don't think I'd had a really zingy one. They've been more of the sort of the fruitier kind of ones, which those are not my favorite kind of perries. And I just had that little sort of slight moment of like, I'm here picking these pears. This tree's, it's got to be 200 years old. My granddad, who I didn't know, he died before I was born. He probably picked it. So did his dad, and somebody else before him, and somebody else before him. And I just felt good. Just felt like, yeah, this is a good thing to do, and it equates to a nice beverage. It just seemed to fit.
Well, the agricultural kind of element and sense of place is a lot of people drink and make beer. They're kind of envious of it, and they have it with wine as well. But wine is steeped in that kind of culture and pretentiousness by design. And it isn't a pretentious drink, but it's been made that by a lot of the drinking culture. But cider has that, and I think once you peel back those layers and you get away from those lower juice content commercial ciders, and people start finding out these areas, they're blown away that, like you say, some people are like, this tree has been picked by my granddad's granddad, and that whole history is pretty clear to see. So with that tree, have you got access to it now? Could you do something? And B, would you ever make that drink again?
The farm left the family 12 years ago, and the person who bought it was known to the family, nice guy, and gave me free access to the fruit. That didn't necessarily mean that I got my ass into gear and managed to get there in time to pick it. I think I did once. Thorn is one of those varieties where the fruit's quite early and it's really soft, and like literally there's a 12-hour optimal ripening window. Before that, it's on the tree, it's too rock hard. But after that, it's splattered on the floor. It's a pain in the ass. And I always seem to sort of miss that optimal day. So I have once sort of picked the fruit from there and produced something that was all right. It's just changed hands as it happens. I've yet to go up and introduce myself. Hi, I'm Gabe Cook, author of Ciderology. Here's a copy. Ding. Can I pick your pear tree? Please don't chop down the pear tree, for God's sake.
Gabe Cook, I believe I've read about you. You're writing a new book, Modish Britain Cider?
That's right. It's the history of the mods and rockers.
That's it. You get it protected. Like,
well,
you get the blue plaque.
Fruit trees, they don't normally get TPOs, the tree protection orders, because they're not of a certain age, and because they won't last very long. Although Perry pears are the exception to that rule, because they can be, 350 years plus. So I would quite like this tree to have a little bit of dendrochronology on it, but that's a different story.
Well, finishing off that story then, and it is a good one. I do enjoy that, Gabe. So thank you. But the last one I'll say from one Phil Wells. He posted this in July, so we're finally getting to you, Phil.
Phil.
Don't think I don't save things on my phone, Phil. I know you judge me, you little fuck. He said, cider that had the biggest impact on you. And I'll give you one or two here, because there's a few periods in my life where they've been affected. Like cider's changed because of that. But I guess, what are the ciders that made you stand back and go, this is the benchmark?
Albie Hill, for me, from Eve's, no doubt. Realised I needed to, get that cider over to the UK. Gabe brought that to my flat when he visited, and it wasn't that long ago. What, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
And
look how your life's changed in those 2 years.
yeah, and I was like, wow, this is not like a cider I've tasted before.
What would have happened if I'd not brought Albie Hill and I'd brought something
Well,
else?
who knows what
I wouldn't have come over to Ridder, would I?
No,
No,
exactly.
I feel immediately quite shameful that I brought it up. Yeah.
But I thought, yeah. Also, again, it's like it was, you know, we were sharing it that night, and you were up visiting in Glasgow, and that was a special moment, and it just felt like everything kind of aligned, and it just felt right, and for me, I was like, right, I've still got the bottle. I still have the bottle that you brought up, and
Here he is.
I always will have it. It was by the fireplace where we left it that night in Glasgow, and it's by the fireplace up here in Fife where I've moved to, because it's a vital cider in what I do now, and why I love cider as well. You know, we've spoken with Autumn and Ezra on the show, and they're just incredible people and cider makers, and the way they approach the whole process is amazing to me. So it's, for me, it's always going to be Albie Hill. Albie Hill is the cider that definitely changed my life.
Well, I don't think we need your first or like anything other than that. That's like the whole story there, isn't it? Like the direction, the change, everything. I'm glad you as a provider of it are bringing it into the UK so that we can try it, but also that you've given it to me as well. And at the pub, it's one that was in the pub, it sold out, but it's like, it's one that you've been able to share that without that whole story. You've given your passion of it over to everyone that you sold it to. So thanks.
I mean, I've done what I wanted to do already. You know, I brought it here. People have shared it. People have drank it and shared the experience and understood how great it is. And that's, for me, that's enough. You know, it genuinely is like, it's amazing that there was, to know that, you know, Gabe brings this bottle over. It's like, oh, you should try this. It's from these guys from upstate New York. I fall in love with it, and then bring it to other people, and lots of other people fall in love with it. And that seems to be the way with cider and the cider community, is just, you know, it's that word of mouth thing of like passing a bottle around. And yeah, it's just incredible.
Gabe, to you. So the cider that had the biggest impact on you. The ciderologist, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, let's clear this.
Is it raison d'etre or?
Do you what?
That wasn't either of our fucking Burns night pick, was it? Fucking hell, Gabe, you
Albert,
shot that down.
Albert is out to get me. No, first off is Weston's. As you know, I grew up in the village next door to Weston. Weston's today is the fifth largest cider maker, big cider maker. And when I was getting into it 20 years ago, they were pretty big regional cider maker, and their organic cider that you could get in Sainsbury's, a 500ml bottle, was just that sensational balance of tannin, but fruity, but with some sweetness and probably a bit of acid added to it. But it was just so intense, because before that I was Old English and Blackthorn and Scrumpy Jack, good. The best of the canned kind of ciders, but this was like, whoa, this was a step above, and just loved that intensity. But then the experience that then just took it to the next level and just like propelled me into a career, I suppose, was that very first cider in the cellar at Broome Farm at Ross and Y. I remember it so vividly, going up the driveway and you know the. You buy your Ross and Y ciders from the pub now up in the village. They've got a little shop there, but it used to be directly from the farm, and driving up there and on the door it said "pull string for cider," and there's a bit of baler twine, and you yank on that, and it dings a bell.
What, just open your mouth, or
yeah, well, no. And Mike emerged from a doorway and said hello, and he opened up the doorway to the cellar, and you sort of step down. And he's got these giant flagstones and rows of about sort of 6 barrels on either side. And it's just like, okay, this is something this felt old and felt like it'd been in the best and most comforting kind of way. It's like, wow, here's something that feels like it's always been there. And Mike going and grabbing like a little plastic half-pint cup and going to the tap on the barrel and filling it up and saying, there you go. That's a dry cider. Enjoy that. And it was still, and having that sip, and I'd never tasted anything like it. It wasn't like the Western cider because it was bone dry, because it was still, but it was just, it had this almost, was bursting with a vibrancy, not with any kind of like zing. It wasn't like the Thorn Perry that was zingy because it had no acidity in there, because Mike doesn't like acidity. It would have been like an Ashton Bitter or Ball's Bittersweet or Yarlington or something like that. And it just, I don't know, it felt right. It felt this sort of connection to the place, and it tasted so good. It was probably 7.5% or something like that. Thank God my brother was driving, so
he had a couple as well, didn't he? You fucking rebels.
I had a taste of the other dry and the medium. Got to try the sweet just in case, and the Perry. There's a bottle open too. You know, I was leathered by the time I'd left the cellar. And
did you know you were going to be a ciderologist then? Or was that like?
No,
I'm not even being a pretentious cunt. But was that like I found something, or was that just like I'm rat-arsed? No.
That was. I'm at university studying geography, not ciderology, and I'm into and over the subsequent couple of years, I brought my university friends down to this place to say, isn't this cool? Is it me, or is this just like not only the drink but the whole like culture of this thing? It's really cool, and would just take liters and liters back up in the backpack whenever I went back up. And after uni, I moved back home. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. The world of woodland and nature conservation could have had me. Unfortunately for them, they dodged a bullet. And
there's like a podcast in an alternate universe.
Yeah,
you're talking about trees.
Logging off the woodlands by Gabe.
That's very good.
Yeah, carry on with that. You were saying about like the backpack, and you've taken that there.
Yeah, I didn't. I like any self-respecting 23-year-old, 2-year-old. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I went traveling, which was great. And when I came back from traveling, I went to the cider farm, and Mike needed somebody to help him with the harvest that autumn. And so I lived in a shed in the garden for a bit and learned how to make and drink cider and taste it. And yeah, I just fell in love with it. I feel like just so eternally grateful that I've just carried on like just playing about with my hobby, really.
And for me, if I'm going to be honest, the cider that made me go like, fuck, this is so different was Once Upon a Tree's Crooked Branch.
Hey, it's producer Scott. Sorry for the interruption, but after recording this episode, Martin realized that he incorrectly identified the cider that changed his life. Not sure how he could do that, but here we are. In the episode, he says it was Once Upon a Tree's Crooked Branch, when in reality, it was Once Upon a Tree's Dorothy's Orchard. So there you go. The record is corrected. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
In a bag-in box in the Cock Tavern. I was buying in loads of ciders from the Real Ale Company. And one of them is the Gold Rush, which has been mentioned more than any. But the one, it was
Dorothy's Orchard.
In that it was almost like appley, Chardonnay, it just clean, effervescent, fresh, citric, sprightly. It was just everything. And you were like, that's next to, essentially, a lot of rough scrumpy. So it felt like a complete diamond in the rough. And I remember drinking it. And it was the first time I'd done it where I started pouring that, not in the pint glass or half pint glass, the little jugs. Started pouring it in the glasses that we were using for wine and just seeing how it played differently. And I remember being like, this feels like it shouldn't be in a pint. Like, I don't know why it's here. And I remember just being like, I can't even unpick it. I didn't have the lexicon or anything, or even the fucking want. I was just like, it tastes lovely, but why is it? I want more, but why is it in a pint? Like, why am I selling it in a pint? And I was like, fuck, how have they done this? And I remember chatting to him years later and being like, Simon, that was just like a fucking revelation. I absolutely adore it. And they don't make it anymore. But I think everything they do has that clean sensibility to it. So I think anything you try from them that's dry will have the same effect on you if you're there.
See, when you were working in the Cock Tavern.
So I was buying all the drinks. I was the GM.
I don't know the Cock Tavern. I don't know even the area that it's in, but like, how easy was it for you to sell? Because it seems like that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
in terms of
2004,
having
2014, 2015.
Yeah, having these things on tap and having bag-in boxes as well, or having like interesting ciders. How easy were they to sell, or did you have to be like convince people to try it? Or
it becomes a different thing there. So to give you some basic facts on it, the pub is the sister pub to the Southampton Arms. That's one of the most respected pubs in the UK. So it's the sister to that, and it's one of the most respected cider pubs in the UK. It does like a no nonsense, no frills thing. And it's like the owner, Pete, just wants bare wood. He basically wanted cash only. I just want to feel like I'm going back to the fucking 20s. That was like the feeling he wanted. And he fucking got it. And with the Cock Tavern, there's 8 keg products. There's 8 casks for real ale, and then 8 pumps for cider. Like, everything was sort of equal. So you've got 8 lines for this product that a lot of people just have one on. So because you become a feature of it, and it's in Hackney, London, Scott, you're right next to a train station, and it's quite it's like a transitional part of London that a lot of people come from the inner city down there. So the footfall's massive. So even if you had like 5% of your drinkers were into cider, you'd turn enough over on each line to warrant it. And because you turned it over, you've then got these drinks. But the thing was, at the time when I took it over, Tim, who was there before me, who's now the head brewer at Howlin' Hops, didn't give a shit about cider, and will openly tell you he hates everyone that drinks it and the way they smell. And he said the very same thing to me now, so fuck him. But it's that notion that the cider was bought because it was this price, and it'll always be £3.20 a pint. Like, that was like the idea. And when I took it over, it was that notion of like, well, I'm from this area, that this doesn't represent me. Why isn't this treated with the same respect as the beer? Why isn't the whiskey treated with the same respect? Like, why is this a beer place that does things? Why is this not a boozy place? So I was super fucking fortunate to be right place, right time, and hit it experimentally in my own head and come to it at that angle, and then be given the fucking fortune of 8 taps where you could put anything on. And one of them happened to be Once Upon a Tree line. I got like 3-4 bibs. Then Gold Rush Oliver's 4 had just come out, so that was on tap. Newton Court, Gasping Goose.
Bibs being bag in box.
Bag in box. So a bag that you pull through with the pump on the hand pull, classic kind of style. But it basically means you can have pints that are cellared. And I swear they were like, half were shit because I was trying everything. I was just, and you learn what's good, what's bad, and what the people drink. That's completely different to what you like. But then half of them I was drinking like, this is better than any beer I've had. And I didn't know at the time the process, the time, anything. I just had like, again, Gold Rush. It was kind of like if someone went, oh, what, do you want this Cantillon bottle? It was like, how is this not a thing? Like I could not fathom it. But yeah, Once Upon a Tree.
Dorothy's Orchard
was the one for me.
Well, there we go. That's our. Thank you for your listener questions. Please do keep them coming in on whatever the topic. We will bank them, even if they are from July, like 7-8 months later. Martin never lets a question go missing. We hope you enjoyed our first foray into a little bit of an international flavor in terms of Spain. Where in the world would you like us to go next? Let us know. Get in touch on Instagram and Facebook, Neutral Cider Hotel. On Twitter, we are Neutral Cider Pod. And of course, check out our website, www.neutralciderhotel.com. Oh, I think it's .com. I can't actually see. It is .com, because I obviously knew that off the top of my head. And if you enjoy our podcast and want to help them, please do tell your friends all about us. Spread the good word, and not just for Biffy Clyro fans, for all fans of music, cider, and general merriment. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, or follow us on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. Gents, thank you so much. It's always been a pleasure to hang out with you at the hotel.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
It's probably time to check out, though, isn't it?
The Hoover out, Gabe.
I'll get the
It's a
Hoover
mess in here.
I'll listen to some nails. And
Violence! Brr, brr, brr. Let's
All I keep thinking of is Mrs. Doubtfire and the hoovering scene in that with Aerosmith in the background. So,
ladies and gentlemen listening at home, please just put on Mrs. Doubtfire and mute it and put nails on.
nails on.
You will never be one of us.
And on that bombshell, cheers, everybody. See you next time.
bye.
Ciao.
Ciao. I didn't know the Spanish for goodbye.
Topa.
Whopper?
Adios.
Bye.
Yeah, adios amigos. There you go. Dos Perignon.
Salud. Salud.